Alright, today we're going to be looking at how to use a mini kbar for controlling some other output. In my case, I have a scale fuselage that I want to control the landing gear on. At first I didn't know you could do this. Then, thanks to the helps of several folks in RC groups, I was able to figure out how to do this. And so here we're looking at a mini kbar right now, and you see the standard channels on there. And in particular, what we're going to be working with is the RxA, sorry for the wiggles, RxA and the RxC on it. When we look at a standard helicopter setup right now, you can see how I have it set up just for a regular flight, where the rudder and the 3 swash servos, and then my ESC is going into RxB. So that's why I'm using RxA and RxC. RxA is a special pin setup on the kbar. It actually is 3 input pins on it, and you can direct a particular signal to come out on pin 3, which is on the bottom side of RxA. The caution is, do not put power in onto that socket, or else you can burn out your kbar with it. So that, how would you put power onto it? If you brought let's say a Y connector from RxC, which has power on the middle and the top pin, and hook that into RxA, you'd be putting receiver power onto it, and you could blow that out. So we're going to be working with this, and there's a really cool, I'll have to put the link down in the description here, right up here, on how we're going to do this. I'll try to focus on this for a second in case you want to read it. And basically what we're going to be doing is editing the saved setup file for your particular helicopter. A particular register is 216 inside of it. Here's the different values you can put on that register right now. In my limitation, I have a 6-channel radio, so I can't put like the channels 7, 8, and 9 on it. What I want to do is I want to take that aux gyro and put that channel out into the last pin on register 216. So what we want to do first is I'll show you. So here's my vstabi setup screen with it, and I'm going to go in here and open up the particular file. Let's zoom into it, and I've made some copies already as I was doing some experimenting with it. And I'm going to use my mouse. This is the standard file when I first set it up and I saved. So I'm going to I need to right click on this, and you need to open this with Notepad. Don't open it with something such as Word, because then you're going to get extra characters in there which will mess up the download. You want just a pure text. So here's what it looks like inside. You have all these different values and things in here, and I'm just kind of scrolling down from the top, and we'll get down to eventually here. You'll see now registers at 200s, and here's register 216. The stock value on it is a 1. Okay, so if you just come in and put your edit right there, you just backspace. In this case I want the gyro or the auxiliary output on it, which I'm going to use for gear. So I would put a 4. The channels are 1 through 5, but the values on the register, you subtract 1 from it because it counts 0 through 5 or 6 or whatever with it. So that edit will be like that. Right now, I'm not going to save that in this particular file because this is my setup one, my default, so I'm just going to close that. And let's see, I'm not going to save. Okay, don't save. But what I did do, here's different samples I was working with, all banks, bank 1. And this is just bank 0, this is a standard setup file. And now if I open this, once again, with Notepad, all right, so we come over here, oh, darn it. We'll go to Notepad, we'll open up Notepad. Here's the file. What I'm going to do is just scroll down and show you that I've already made the edit on this. So here's file or register 216. It has the value of 4. And just as a reminder, if you look at this register values here, you see the, the aux gyro channel, register or channel 5, and there you want a value of 4. Okay, so that's what I have on here. Here's 216, the value of 4. And the name of this file, just so you see later on, it's my 450X landing gear.vbr. Okay, so I'm just going to close this out. Now, let me reduce this down because I don't need this open. I already had the vstabi software open. I have the USB connector from my laptop already connected up into the kbar. So at this point, what I need to do, well, in a minute, is power that up. What I want to show first is how I wired this up, okay? Because that was a little bit of a challenge as well. So we had the software side and then the hardware side with it. So you have, I'll move my radio out of the way here, some different wires and stuff we're going to be using with it. So these two, if I bring them on over, are a couple that just come with your kbar anyway. This one is just a jumper with it, you know, straight across. We're not going to use that. I'll just throw that out of the way. This one I found in there is actually really cool. So this end just plugs right into, and you can see it's just a standard connector, plugs into the kbar. And when you look at the other end, it actually breaks out each individual wire on it. In this case, we're going to want it gets us a yellow or an orange one on the bottom. This one right here, that will bring our signal out to control the servo. I'm going to just be using some standard servo. I put a control arm on it so I can see it move. There's nothing special about this. This is just a 9-gram servo. It might be an Emax or something. The other thing we're going to need on this is a Y connector, because I'm going to have to bring the signal from RxA and then power and ground from RxC. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use this Y connector to do this. Now this one, it happens to have this wire cut on it. That's not needed. This Y connector, that was already breaking on me, and so I just had cut it all the way. So this is just a standard one. You don't need to do this. Cut that wire. It just happens to be. Now I was trying to figure out how to hook all this stuff up in order to be able to hook it up into the relay or the servo, the kbar, both 2 sockets on it. So what I came up with is using this Y connector. I'm going to use this connector here, and it will plug into one side of the Y connector. The other side will plug into the kbar. I'll show that. This other female connector will go to my servo. So the servo will just connect up into here, like, like that. This male side, the remainder of the Y connector where everything goes together, I will plug this up into RxC on the kbar. So let me go ahead and I'm going to do it on the, I'll say offline, on this one here first so you can see what it looks like. And then I'll actually plug it into the helicopter as well. So I'm going to set the camera down and just do this by hand a little bit so you can see it, because I'm not able to do everything all at once. Maybe. So I'm going to just kind of prop the camera up here so you can see this. And now, so we're just using, we're using a kbar. And sorry, we got some background noise going on. So I'm going to take this brown or black goes to the top. I'm going to hook this up into RxC. Maybe takes me a little bit. Oops, here's RxC. Oh man. Okay. So that's just plugged into, you can see that there, RxC. That's my Y cable. One end of the Y, I don't know, I just used one that I have that cut. I'm going to take this 3-pin connector and the one end, right, brown to brown and orange to orange on it. It's going to hook this into here, like, it's kind of stiff. Oh, come on. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. No, yeah, it is the one I have to do it. I had to think there for a moment. Sorry, it's just really stiff. Oh, I got to take the other end. That's what's going on. This end on their connectors, it has this extra little edge on it here. It's kind of hard for you to see, I guess, but it keeps it from plugging into a standard socket. So I made a mistake. I want to use the orange, and I'm going to plug it in here so it lines up with the orange. No, they're not just plugged in. So the other end, and remember, we're going to be using the orange, which comes back and plugs into the Y connector. And that just is going to go into the RxA on the bottom. And this is where I made the mistake before. I was trying to plug this end in on the other side. Okay. So now with our Y cable, I have their breakout cable, and I have the orange one going into my Y connector. The Y connector, the one end plugs into here. The other end of the cable, the other female here, we'll just take the servo, and once again, we got to get the colors lined up on it and plug that into there, just like that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this up on the actual helicopter, and then show you what the controller looks like there as well. But just in summary with it, right, there's the breakout cable that kbar supplies with you. One end is hooked into the RxA. It comes out. I want the bottom pin, which is the orange one. That plugs into one end of my Y connector. The Y connector traces back, goes to RxC. The other end of the Y connector comes out and gets on over here to my servo. Okay, so now let me plug this into the actual helicopter, and then we'll go through some of the setup and the loading so you can see it. All right, so let me get this set up. You can watch me plug it in over here. Kind of exciting. So anyway, here is their breakout cable. Plug it into RxA like we showed before. My Y cable with the male side, or the female, no, it's male. I'm going to plug into RxC, brown on the top, or black, depends on your wiring, I suppose. All right, it takes me a little bit to get this in there. Not very good. There we go. That's plugged into there. Now, as I had shown, their breakout cable, I'm going to take the orange one. I'm going to hook it into here and line it up orange to orange. This is the Y cable to one side. And I'm going to wait for a second, but I'll plug this other end of the Y into the servo with it. So now, let's go back and, I'm going to power on the helicopter too. I got to turn my radio on. So I'm doing that right now. Okay, I got throttle hold on. They say disconnect your motor wires and stuff. I should. I'm just being lazy. I'm not going to. Okay, I'm going to hook my battery and power this whole thing up. Oh, sorry. All right, sorry about that. My phone fell over and it went from video to photo mode, and my filming stopped. So we're going to pick it back up again here, right where we stopped off at. I was hooking up the battery for it. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to plug this in. Okay. Everything's initializing on there. The servo's all good. And my vstabi software is all talking like it should be, and everything else. All right, so now we have the Y connector, all that kind of stuff hooked up into it. I actually end up having the servo hooked up into this now as well at this point. So I forget which file I have loaded in here right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say load. Okay, and as before, when I mentioned, this is my default setup when I first set up the helicopter without editing anything on it. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to say open. Okay, if you haven't already, I choose select all and it gets everything. Say okay. You can see here it's all sending the data, and now it's all loaded. Okay, so now this is the standard setup, battery, so on. It's all connected on here, and as I swap my auxiliary right here like this, nothing's happening with the servo. Okay, you can see this here. I got the little control bar on it. Oops, so you can watch it, just nothing. All right, so now if I come back in and as we showed before, and we say, okay, let me load the file that we edited, that registered 216, and put the value of 4, right, for the auxiliary, which goes to my landing gear. So I just named this landing gear. I'm going to open this as before. We're going to load everything. All right, so I say okay. We see it loading in all the parameters. What that? All right. So now everything's the same except for that register 216 has a value of 4 instead of the default value of 1. So now, see, I'm just swapping that. But now when I do that, if we look at the servo here, you see it actually moves. And it's kind of goofy, I guess, moving like that. I don't know if I can make it stand up, but there you go. It's tricky at the same time. And that's exactly what I want. I want to, like gear down, gear up, gear down for my scale of fuselage and so on. So that's it right there. It's, handy dandy. Loading that file in that we edited, register 216, and I put the value of 4, just like before. So you got the aux and is the value of 4 on that. I'll kind of look at this a little bit so you can read what's on here. There's not really too much that goes into it. We didn't look at this part down here below. This is just talking about editing the file, making sure you don't put power onto the RxA like we talked about before. Edit your file. If you're not sure about what you're doing with it, don't do it, and so on. Okay, so it's interesting. I'm going to show one last thing on here. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to say load as before. This is the default setup, right? And I think this is kind of cool too. So we'll just say open. I'm going to load, everything, select all, and say okay. This is going down into the helicopter, right? So now it's ready. Everything's the same. Here's the servo down here. And as before, now my auxiliary does nothing to it, my gear channel. But what's kind of cool, now if we look at this, and here's my aileron and elevator channel with the helicopter. Now if I move this back and forth, okay, you can see that as the swash moves, I also get a linear motion on, see, just on the servo, which is pretty cool. I mean, why would you use this? If you wanted to have, let's say, a pilot on your helicopter, if you have a scale fuselage, you want to pilot with it, you could use this here, which is a right and left for the helicopter, as banks around, you could actually have it to control the head or something on it. Well, I'm going to put it back to where I want it at. So let's load this. I'm going to get the landing gear like we did before. Registered 216, edited to 4, right? Everything's selected. Say OK. Stuff's loading down into it. Boom. And now you're back to the servo. I do my auxiliary switch. Boom. See, just like here, you can see the auxiliary switch in their software. Go to the servo. Just like that. We're all done. All right. So that's, in summary, how we take advantage of some of the signals that can come out on the kbar here on that RxA. Edit the file in register 216 to output one of these values that we want out on it. In my case, I wanted channel 5 for a gear channel. With it, loaded that into the helicopter. We went over all the wiring with the Y cable and different things. And now I have a way to control this. If any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to answer them. I'm going to put a link, if I can find it again, for this document here. It's kind of handy, at least just for a reference on it. I printed mine out, so I don't have to worry about it, but electronic copies is good as well. All right, thanks. See you later.